Good evening and welcome to Behind the Gavel. I'm Jackie McKinney from Hartford 2000.
And I am Gwendolyn Thames, Council President.
We've been on hiatus. Many of you know that we lost our dear friend Linda. And so we're going to do Behind the Gavel again, but we're going to have a different emphasis on it. Every week we'll have one of the different council person talking about items on the agenda that are of particular interest to them. So I think it should be exciting. Also, next time we're going to try and play the video that was done for Linda. You might all be interested, and it really was focused around the council.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that should be fun. So anyway, let's start. There were three main things that you and I talked about talking today. One of them was the adoption of the bicycle master plan. That sounds so ominous for a bicycle. Can you tell us exactly what that's going to be about?
Yeah, sure. I think this, proposal that's put forth us, it went through committee, so we've spent a lot of time kind of delving into it. The Department of Planning and Economic Development, along with Planning and Zoning, have really been working on this plan, and I think it's one of those notions of we want our city to be a healthy, sustainable, livable, workable community, and with that, bicycles
Yeah.
are important, a part of the modes of transportation, and I think it's no secret, specifically to our bicyclists who travel into and out of work,
Yeah.
even casually or leisurely use bicycles, that our networks are not the best. We've definitely made tremendous strides over the last decade or so, but there's still a lot of disconnectedness within our bike network. And so what this plan is doing is at least laying a groundwork, and it's a living, breathing document. So it's not to say that this is it and this is absolute, but it gives us a roadmap to understand where the deficiencies are, where the gaps are, how we can improve, and what a full, robust network may look like. But it still needs to be funded. But when those opportunities come around investments in our bicycle network, we have a plan that our practitioners and those who, do the work can look to and say, okay, this is how we're going to build out Farmington Avenue. This is how we're going to build out the Cope Park area, whatever it may be, the Keeney Park area in our city. There's a roadmap and there's a plan that they can point to. But again, it's a living, breathing document, because I know some of the community expressed concerns to the council around specific areas, particularly around the Park River branch over in the Weston area, and disrupting the ecosystem over there, wildlife.
Never thought of that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so those are real concerns. And I think one of the things that, what I understood was that, again, this is a living, breathing document. So everything that we do still has to go through approval process. This is just laying out what the possibilities are, what makes sense. But when we get to that point of actual implementation, it has to go through its own separate approval process, and it could pivot. So I think that's just an important point to get out there to the community as well.
Do you know, is there any special spot that you're looking for that you want to start, or?
I think from my own personal view, I think, looking at our main arteries,
Okay.
From the Albany Avenue, North Main Street, Farmington Avenue, Park Street, Farmington Avenue, Weathersfield Avenue, making sure like those main arteries that are connecting us from our contiguous towns into our neighborhoods, into downtown, that we have healthy, vibrant networks
Well, that's a
that
good
are
place,
safety. So
yeah.
I think from a strategic perspective, that's kind of like the hub, and then you work out from there. And again, we've made some investments in those areas, but again, this is kind of the continuation of a roadmap for us to kind of work towards and seek investment dollars to do
that.
to do it.
Where will we get that kind of money from? Is it just general fund, or?
Right. I mean, it can come from a variety of sources. I know a lot of the streetscape work that we've been doing, we've been getting a lot of help from
Yeah.
the state, federal grants. And, obviously the city's position fiscally hasn't been the best. And we're now, as a on a pay-as-you-go capital improvement. But as the city's position, improves, I think there's opportunity there, not in the near term, but longer
Longer
term.
term, yeah.
And also, too, when we have developments, right? I think this is an important piece that residents should understand. When we have particular developments that are coming online, what is a community benefit that we can shape through that development? That is investing in infrastructure. That could be bike lanes, right? But if we have a plan, it all works.
You could just slip it in there.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly.
Well, speaking about community development, that sort of leads a good transition for, oh, well, let me just back up for a minute. Will you be voting on this plan tonight?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Okay, all right, great. But the Dono, the adding of housing and retail development around the stadium, and not, is it Dono, is that what it,
Dono,
North? I
downtown.
know we shouldn't have this lingo. Downtown North,
Yes, downtown North Development.
yeah. There was a community meeting.
Yes.
And so where are you now?
Yeah, so, I think a lot of people obviously are very familiar with the baseball stadium, the Yard Goat Stadium, Dunkin' Donuts Park, if you will. That has been a huge success. But a part of, Dunkin' Donuts, it was a broader vision around, the whole downtown North development and that idled, vacant land that has been there for years,
Yeah.
really activating it and being an anchor of connective tissue between downtown and our neighborhoods, particularly going into the North End with North Main Street and Albany Avenue.
Yeah.
And so the stadium, the Dunkin' Donuts Park, was a huge catalyst to that, right? But we knew that that wasn't going to work in isolation. We couldn't just do that. It was about all of the other parcels, the 4 parcels around the park that were really going to propel that development. And so we've been really focused on aggressively looking at opportunities and developers. The elephant in the room, I would address that. We had a master developer center plan
Yeah.
that had title of those lots as well as the stadium that was responsible for the whole development. But obviously our relationship kind of, fell apart with the stadium and we had to move in another direction. And there's currently a trial actively going on around the
didn't know that.
future of those 4 parcels that are still tied up with center plan. So hopefully we will soon know what the outcome of that is. But I think the city, in recognizing that this is a huge economic, once in a lifetime, once in a generation time opportunity for economic growth, particularly in that area of the city, when you have some of the lowest numbers of, highest numbers of unemployment, socioeconomic, it can be a huge boost to really be transformative. And so I think we're all hopeful that the outcome of that trial will alleviate and not keep us in a complex, lengthy litigation, but could free us to entering into an agreement with the new developer, which is our RMS.
Yeah.
And which
okay.
is on the agenda because we actively have been negotiating with this company. And so now the agreement is before council for approval tonight. But I would say that this wasn't, just in isolation. RMS had a community meeting last fall at the San Rapkins Library.
Now, who is RMS?
They are the developer. Randy Salvatore is the
Oh,
principal.
Okay. That's
But
standing
they
in line to.
exactly who we would be entering into a ground lease agreement with.
Okay.
And so we had a community forum last fall, I want to say September, October, where we solicited a lot of input from the community on what they wanted to see in the development. And so that informed the agreement that is now before us. And so last week, the community forum that you mentioned, we wanted to circle back with the community and say, okay, we started here, we got your input. This is kind of, where we are now. We feel good about where we are, what is the, any other additional feedback. And so we had a really good discussion last week at the Rapkins Library. And I think council members that were there felt really good about moving forward with this development. And we had the minority contractors community there, Hartford residents, again, because this is one of those opportunities where it can provide jobs from the community from a pre-construction perspective and construction, but then it's what are the post-construction long-term benefits.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of different components that are going to it. A part of this agreement, it is performance-based. So previously, we had given title to all of the properties, all of the parcels, but with this development, we're doing one parcel at a time. So we set out the terms, and if you do what you said you were going to do, develop what you said you're going to do,
Yeah.
and meet those targets, then we move on to the next parcel.
Oh, okay.
And I think, again, that was important for me personally, but my council colleagues, to make sure there's accountability and transparency, and we're not just blanketly, giving out development or title to properties with no clawbacks, no way to hold people accountable. So I think the way the deal is structured and the way the administration has structured, and I've worked very closely with the administration, and particularly Eric Johnson, who's the director of development services
He's
now.
the new director.
Yes, absolutely. I feel really good about where we are.
Okay. Well, that's good, and it's great. So we'll do one parcel at a time. I am amazed at how well the baseball stadium has turned out.
Yeah.
It had some bumpy public relations
It did.
when it started, but now it's something we can really feel good
Yeah,
about.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I was just there with my children last Thursday.
Ah.
Yeah, they got tickets from their gym teacher to
wow.
go. So they said, "Mommy, we're going to the game," and I said, "I guess so. It's a Thursday night at 7:00. Okay, why not?
Why not? Why not?
School's almost over."
Yeah. Well, it's funny. My aunt, who's 91, she wants to go.
Oh, you gotta take her.
So I got to get
gotta
her there.
take her.
We
gotta take her.
talked about it the last time we were together. I want to go.
She
so
would love it. She
yeah.
would have a great
A
time.
bunch of us will take and we'll drop her off at the curb and get her
Yeah. Yep.
settled in there.
Absolutely.
So she's a big sports fan. And who would have thought that you could build something that would be exciting to not only young kids,
Yep,
but
the whole
your
family and the
seniors.
senior.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's very exciting. Okay, well, we'll have to stay posted on
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Yes.
Do you have any idea when, like, the first shovel, they'll do the first digging?
Well,
or is that...
again, I want to just reiterate a lot of this development is really going to be indicative of the outcome of the trial and where we
All right.
stand there. But I think, it's something that the developer is ready to go
Okay.
whenever the
So
city is ready to go. So
Okay.
it could happen very fast depending on the outcome of the trial.
Okay, so we'll keep all of you posted.
Yes.
And then the other great plan, large plan, it sounds little, but is the redo of I-84. They call it the Capital Gateway Transit Orient Development Plan.
Absolutely.
That's a mouthful.
Concept plan,
Concept
right?
plan.
Because concept is the key word.
All right. Yeah. Which is basically the impact, the redo of I-84.
Yes.
Which is the viaduct part is aging and has to be replaced.
Right. Absolutely. So again, this is similar concept to the bicycle master plan. This is really, again, the city being proactive and planning for what we know is going to happen with the I-84 redo, whether it's, below grade, tunneled. I know there's been a few different options, but I think they settled on below grade. And I know Congressman Larson has some other ideas around his big tunnel project.
For 91.
Right.
Yes.
But that would intersect with this, and it would
Yes, right,
impact.
yeah.
But as far as what's happening now and what, the state of Connecticut DOT has cleared, this plan is centered on, again, being proactive and responsive to what we know is going to happen and how we can protect Hartford's interests, because there's going to be a lot of realignment, road work. So you want to make sure that neighborhoods are not being impacted, displaced, isolated, disrupted. You want to really minimize and mitigate and ensure that any redevelopment that happens or realignment of the highway is not adversely impacting our neighborhoods and our residents. So we have to look out for Hartford's interests.
Yeah.
And so this Capital Gateway plan is about us being proactive and planning for that to ensure when things start happening and kicking into gear, we say, oh, no, 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 that's not going to work. This is actually how we should do it. And so, again, kudos to Development Services and Planning and Economic Development, and as well as Planning and Zoning, because they spent a lot of time and really thinking about this. And I think it's important to understand that the city is really being proactive because there's a lot of development that's happening.
Yeah.
And we need to make sure that we are responsive and we actually can drive our own ship and not have people just do things to us.
Yes.
But we're saying, no, we're a part of it, and we're
Yeah.
going to say, no, actually, you're going to do it this way because this is how it benefits the community and the residents.
Okay, we'll be wrapping up soon, but just as a point of reference, I live in Asylum Hill, and my neighborhood is going to be
Absolutely.
impacted a lot. They'll be changing exit ramps or entrance ramps. It impacts the large corporations in Asylum
Yes.
Hill. But the other good part about it is, as they lower, there's going to be some decking going
Yes.
on.
Yep.
And that we could be acquiring new land.
Yep. Yep.
Hartford will have more land to develop.
Right. Absolutely. So there's
yeah.
huge economic upside as
Yeah,
well.
right.
But again, if done right.
Yes.
And so that's why a plan like this is important, that's being driven by the city to ensure that the plan is done right and that we're getting optimal benefit for the residents of Hartford and our neighborhoods.
Yeah, and I think we're going to also get a new train station out of it.
Yes.
So,
yes.
I mean,
yes.
it wasn't
Absolutely.
in the original plan.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
they have to, that track has gotten old. And,
Yes. It's very outdated.
Right,
It needs to be
so-
modernized.
Right, so I think we're not tearing down the actual building. That's
Right.
a historic site.
Right.
But we relocate the track and have a brand new
Yeah.
operational
Absolutely.
station. Yeah. So we're on the road, and they're giving me the high sign here.
Okay. I think we have to wrap up.
Do we have to wrap up? So again, thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Yep.
It's fun working with new people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
thank you for being patient and keeping up the charge and legacy of Linda.
Yeah.
God bless her soul. This was something that was her baby,
That's
you and
right.
her. So thank you
miss
for
it.
keeping the torch, and happy to do it and look forward to like this new format and
yeah.
looking forward to come before you and the residents again.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I guess with that, we'll say good night.
Okay.
Is that true?
All right.
They're done.
We're going to start our count.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, we're going to get started. I'm going to reconvene our public comment from earlier because when we initially started, we only had one person who signed up, but then there has been, I think, one or two that have come in. So I just want to give them an opportunity to speak before we get started because we are at time to start our council meeting. So with that, Mary Saunders. Is the mic on? Hold on one second.
Yes? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Mary Sanders, 184 Preston. Thank you for accommodating us latecomers. I was over at the library going through your 92-page agenda, picking out the pages I wanted. Thank you. Just a couple things quick. I saw that the housing code issues have been on your mind the past couple meetings. As also for looking at the missing commissioners for that to fill those spots on the commission, as well as getting the housing task force up and running again until that actually happens. So I am encouraged that you guys are concerned about this and hope to see some movement on that quickly because of there's too many things going on around town that need to be looked at by a housing commission. I'm also concerned, I just recently heard that the Public Health Commission is neither functional right now. So you have a Public Health Commission and a Housing Commission, two critical commissions for residents of Hartford, both non-functional. So I encourage you to try to find some people to fill those roles. The other two things briefly, forgive my lack of knowledge about how CDBG funding is used, but I saw something about guaranteeing a loan for the hotel that is looking to renovate rooms and possibly give some work to Hartford residents. I just don't know about, tying up all that big chunk of CDBG money, and if that is used to guarantee a loan, does that keep it out of the circle of funding that can be allocated to other projects? Those were my concerns. Another concern was seeing the reduction of money being offered for different properties around town. I understand that, some developers have found some difficulties and their bottom line is going to be affected by, unexpected costs for some of the renovations that they're proposing. But for the city to lose $110,000 on that project, and just let somebody buy city properties for $5,000, why not consider another alternative that once those 14 properties are built and sold, then the money becomes due. And that way the city, because the city is not really in a position to be giving away all this funding to people who want to do development in Hartford. And I know a lot of times, there's critical housing and jobs on the line, but the city is in no position to be granting these type of considerations to people who are just looking to fund their bottom line. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, that concludes our public comment section. We will now adjourn, and we will now open up our regularly scheduled monthly council meeting. Council President, Mr. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Bermudez.
Present.
Councilman Clark. Present.
Councilman Deutsch.
Present.
Councilwoman Fox.
Here.
Councilman Gale.
Here.
Councilwoman Rosado. Councilman Sanchez.
Present.
Councilwoman Thames.
Present.
Councilwoman Winch.
Here.
We have a quorum, Madam President.
Thank you. Can we please stand for the pledge? So we do have a point of personal privilege on the floor today. I believe Janice Castle from the Mayor's Office, Director of Community Engagement, is here with us. And so the two of us will be acknowledging our Volunteer of the Month. Janice, you want to come up?
He bringing him up.
So, good evening, everyone. We launched this program, what is it now, 6 months or no? A year. Wow, time flies when you're having fun. And so we wanted to provide an opportunity for us to acknowledge the residents of Hartford and community members for all the wonderful things that they do, our unsung heroes, and all the work that they do on the ground that doesn't necessarily all the time get recognized. And so this is a peer recognition where we have folks from the community that know these people, validate the work of these people that really put their names forward. And so this young lady is going to be our Volunteer of the Month, and Janice will go into that.
Thank you, Council President. So each month, or on a continuous basis, residents are submitting applications, and we have a group of city employees who meet once a month to go through the submitted nominations. And so for the month of May, they selected Gina Gardner for her contributions to the community and all the work that she does at CRT with their community garden. So on behalf of Mayor Bronan, I have an official citation that I will read recognizing her efforts. Official citation presented to Gina Gardner. Be it hereby known to all that I hereby offer my sincerest congratulations in recognition of your strong commitment to the City of Hartford through the Community Renewals Team's Community Garden. You took charge of maintaining the garden every day, making our community greener and healthier, all while you cared for your grandchildren. The City of Hartford is deeply grateful for your contributions to our community.
Thank you. And so, Ms. Gardner, on behalf of the Court of Common Council, we have an official citation we want to acknowledge you with as well. And again, sharing the same sentiments that Ms. Castle went over. Just want to thank you for all of your service. As I think is well known that Hartford is a food desert, if you will, and we've been actively working to get, a grocer here that is providing fruits and vegetables, but in the interim, people like you are making that accessible to our residents through the community garden. So we really appreciate the work that you've done, because a city that feeds itself is really what it's about. And you've been and you've been a symbol of doing that work on the ground. So we really appreciate you for that. And so the citation reads, on behalf of the City of Hartford Corner Common Council, congratulations on being selected as the City of Hartford's Volunteer of the Month for May 2019. The Court of Common Council would like to thank you for your numerous contributions and commitment to the greater Hartford community. Your leadership will have a positive impact on many generations to come. Thank you. Thank you again. I love starting our council meetings when we have Volunteer of the Month. So again, thank you, and thank you to Ms. Gardner for your work. So with that, we will now jump into our business agenda. So I think the Majority Leader, if you are ready, we can get into the consent calendar items.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Through you, Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules for executive session.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Any discussion on the suspension of the rules for the purposes of a pending lawsuit in executive session? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez.
Yes.
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Deutsch.
Yes.
Councilwoman Fox.
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado. Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Thames.
Yes.
Councilwoman Winch.
Yes.
Rules are suspended for executive session.
Thank you.
Madam
Mr.
President,
Majority?
I'd like to make another motion for suspension of the rules, a second motion if we need a separate one.
Are you making a motion?
Yes,
Could you make the motion, please?
yes, I'd like to move that the council...
Is your mic on?
I'd like to make a motion that the council suspend the rules for introduction of another item for suspension of the rules.
Is there a second?
Second.
A motion has been made and properly seconded. Any discussion on the suspension of rules for the introduction of an item? Dr. Deutsch?
Yes, through you, Madam President. The reason for suspension of the rules is because within the next few days, there'll be still a third violation of municipal code by not having nominations properly submitted for permanent directors of departments. Right now, there are two, and within the next few days, there will be a third violation of that portion of the city code that requires submission by the mayor of nominees for department heads. So that's why it's suspension. Otherwise, we'll have to wait until the next council meeting when this item will come up as part of the agenda, and then there will be an additional violation of the law of the city. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez.
Yes.
Councilman Clark.
No.
Councilman Deutsch.
Yes.
Councilwoman Fox.
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
No.
Councilwoman Rosado. Councilman Sanchez.
No.
Councilwoman Thames.
No.
Councilwoman Winch.
I have my hand up for a clarification question, but we ended up going to the vote, so I don't know how that happens. Do I get to ask my clarification question, or do I need to cast a vote?
Cast a vote.
I'm going to abstain.
I'm sorry?
She abstained.
Fail.
So, Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
I'd like to make a motion to add the following items to the consent calendar. That's item 9, 12, 13, 20, 24, 28, and 31.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez.
Yes.
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Deutsch.
Yes.
Councilwoman Fox.
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes, and I would like to just note that there's a friendly amendment to item 20. And if I may just read that amendment into the record. It's the addition of 4 words. And it is 4 words added to section 17-170 under the definition of retail facility, where it defines what facilities are subject to this new plastic bag ban ordinance. It says including but not limited to, and we're going to add the words profit and nonprofit as modifiers to the following words: retail stores, sidewalk sales, et cetera, et cetera. So the additional words are profit and nonprofit. And that is friendly amendment by all.
Second.
Okay, hearing no disagreement, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado, Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Thames,
Yes.
Councilwoman Lynch.
Yes,
Pass.
Mr. Majority Leader.
I'd like to make a motion to receive the following items, item 10 and 11.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Any discussion on the received items? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez.
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Deutsch.
Yes.
Councilwoman Fox,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado, Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Thames,
Yes.
Councilwoman Lynch.
yes,
Pass.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Through you, Madam President, I'd like to refer the following items, of which my colleague, Minority Leader Bermudez, will read the description of each. That will be item number 1 to the Operation Management Budget and Government Accountability Committee. The hearing date for that is Monday, June 17, 2019. Item number 2 to the Planning, Economic Development and Housing Committee and to the Operation Management Budget and Government Accountability Committee. And item number, that's 2. Item number 3 to the Operation Management Budget and Government Accountability Committee. Hearing date will be Monday, July 15, 2019 for those 2. Items number 4 to the Public Works, Parks, Environmental Committee and Public Dedication Committee. Items 5 and 7 to the Legislative Affairs Committee. And item number 6 to the Health and Human Services Committee. Item number 19 to the Planning, Economic Development and Housing Committee. A hearing date for that is Monday, 17, 2019. Item number 26 to the Public Works, Parks, Environmental Committee and Public Dedication Committee. Hearing date for that is Monday, June 17, 2019. Item number 27 to the Building Dedication Committee. Hearing date is Monday, June 17, 2019. And items 29 and 30 to the Labor, Education, Workforce, and Youth Development Committee.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Minority Leader, you have the floor.
Item number 1, resolution authorizing the amendment to existing ground lease with 315 Trumbull Street Associates LLC for 3 parcels of land located at 315 Trumbull Street. Item number 2, resolution authorizing the mayor to submit a Section 108 loan guarantee program application for the renovation of the Hilton Hotel at 315 Trumbull Street. Item number 3, resolution to authorize to reduce the sale price for 14 parcels of land on Naugatuck Street to allow Toral Development LLC to complete the second phase of housing development. Item number 4, resolution authorizing the receipt of Partners for Places grant in the amount of $65,000 for ongoing sustainability action areas. Item number 5, resolution to request confirmation of Marcus Lawson and Julio Flores to the LGBTQ Commission. Item number 5, resolution to request the confirmation appointment of Deborah McDonald to the Commission on Aging. Item number 7, resolution to request the appointment of Jackson Gemmel and Marisa Pistrito to the Ethics Commission. Item number 19, ordinance amending sections 22-25 and 22-26 of the Municipal Code to address parking violation citations and fines and penalties for unlawful parking. Did I miss number 6?
Any discussion?
Oh,
on
I'm
the-
sorry, I'm not done yet.
Oh,
No, I said number 6.
You went through.
Item number 29, resolution requesting that the mayor employ department leadership opportunities to create measures within their department to assess the morale of their workers and create a visible incentive program. Oh, I missed 26 and 27. There's a lot. So item number 26, an ordinance amending Chapter 26, Parks and Recreation, Article 2, to conduct and use regulated of the Municipal Code of Hartford. Item number 27, resolution to rename Aaron Fein Square to the Walker Doc Hurley Square. I've mentioned item number 29 already. And the last item is item number 30, resolution to express continued support for legislation which leads to everyone having the ability to have a better life after completing all requirements of their release from incarceration and becoming a valuable member of society.
Any discussion on the referred items? Councilman Clark.
Thank you, through you, Madam President. Just a point of clarification, item 27, that's to the Public Dedication Committee, not the Building Dedication Committee? Okay.
Okay, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez.
Yeah.
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Deutsch. Councilwoman Fox.
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
Here, yes.
Councilwoman Rosado. Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Thames.
Yes.
Councilwoman Lynch.
Yes.
Pass.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Through you, Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to postpone the following items until June 24, 2019. That's item 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 21, 22, and 23.
Second.
19 got referred to committee. Okay. A motion has been made and properly seconded on the postponed items. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez.
Yes.
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Deutsch.
Yes.
Councilwoman Fox.
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado. Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Thames.
Yes.
Councilwoman Lynch.
Yes.
Items are postponed.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Through you, Madam President, I'd like to put the following item up for action, item number 8.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Any discussion on the action item? Councilwoman Lynch?
Yes, Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to put this item on receive because it's just a report with no resolution attached. So we can just receive the report.
Second.
So, item number 8, it was, as the chair of the Labor, Education, and Workforce and Youth Development Committee, she stated it was just a report, so it should have been received because there was no resolution attached.
So you see that? That's what I'm trying to tell you. This is how the reports come. The same
Right.
thing. Report. Look. The same thing you got right there. The same thing, it's the same thing.
So, it's a report, so it's just received. Do we need to vote on that? So is there a motion on the floor? And was made by the chair, seconded by Councilman Clark. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll. You have a question, Dr. Deutsch? It's just a received item.
Well, it was, through you, it was just mentioned, I guess it was an oversight on someone's part that the resolution itself was not attached.
Correct.
And so therefore, does that mean we are committed to taking up the resolution on the next agenda?
Well, it would get punted to the next agenda, basically, because again, it was a received item because there was no resolution attached, and it was a report from the committee. So at the next council meeting, it would be on the agenda as long as the chair of Labor, Education, and Workforce submits it.
Right. So through you, what I mean is, it has the usual language in 8 with accompanying resolution. So our omission somehow is that the resolution was not accompanied. Is that, do I have it
Correct.
correct? Okay. So I yield to the chair.
So it will, so his question is, will it be submitted to the next council meeting?
Right, the resolution needs to be
Right.
somewhere else. So the resolution will probably be at the next meeting. So all reports without resolutions go in the received
Correct.
area. So this one should have also been
Right.
received. So the resolution will probably show up at the next meeting.
Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez.
Yes.
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Deutsch.
Yes, yes.
Councilwoman Fox.
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado. Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Thames.
Yes.
Councilwoman Lynch.
Yes.
Pass. Okay.
Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Through you, Madam President, I'd like to put the following item up for action, and that's item number 25.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Any discussion? Councilwoman Lynch.
Yes, Madam President, I just wanted to say that I was very impressed with this community meeting, unlike some other community meetings, whereas the individual actually came and made presentation with the demonstration, acknowledgement, community leaders, contractors, elected officials, and explain what his proposal is intended to do and how he wanted to put this development in place and also ensure that local contractors had an opportunity to participate. So that was very impressive, and also to exceed the requirements of what we're asking for minority hiring and, you know, our other contractual compliances for the city of Hartford. So I will be voting for phase 1 of this project.
Thank you, Councilman Clark.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I think that this is an important step in a major direction for the city of Hartford as we look to redevelop our corridors, which are gateways, not just into our downtown area, but also into our neighborhoods. And for the fact that part of this proposal, this phase, he's looking to build a combination of housing, which is affordable housing, which I think is still essentially needed in our city. And it appears to me that it looks like that it's housing, the housing components are similar to the Park and Main Street development where you have a workforce component. So this is something that I see that we're moving in the right direction and trying to renovate certain areas of our city and increase the quality of life, which is something that, you know, we should be supporting.
Councilman Gale.
I would just like to add that as another element of the agreement from the developer is going to pay a sum of $10,000 to help the city actively recruit and help build capacity for the success of our MBE, WBE, and local Hartford contractors. So there's a definite commitment here to try to work as hard as possible to meet those quotas, because I know in the past, sometimes, although the quotas are there, we don't necessarily meet them because we don't have that capacity and we don't have contractors who can fill the gaps. And so we certainly have a commitment here to try to move towards trying to do that, certainly.
Minority Leader.
Thank you. Through you, Council President. I'm going to be in support of this resolution, item number 25. What we saw in terms of the development of the actual baseball field was, well, we saw a lot of it in the news, and it was a mess by Center Plan. And the last thing that we want is for Center Plan to have access to be able to develop this parcel. And so we welcome the opportunity to work with this other development and company to be able to really make use of this space in the way that the community has expressed with all of the items that the community cares about. And I'm going to be very supportive of this resolution. With that in mind, we really want to make sure that our city is placed in the next step, in the right step, to be able to develop that property, and doing that by cutting ties with the previous developer.
Councilman Deutsch.
Thank you, Madam President. I wonder if my council colleagues can just answer very briefly 3 questions at the moment that we are supporting this resolution for downtown development. And I don't know if they came up in previous discussion. We may have to turn to an authority on that also. But one of them is at the bottom of the letter to the council, RMS would have the option to develop other parcels at the Dono site. Looking at the future, RMS would have the option. And I wonder if someone, as the first question, can enlighten me or us as to when does the mean an exclusive and preferential option? I guess that's what it means. But when it says the, does that mean there are no other options? There's no other ability to continue for, let's say, subsequent parcels. A lock-on in a sense. The second question I have is that at the next to the last paragraph of the letter, City of Hartford home funds would be committed toward the development of parcel C to support construction of 10 affordable units. I'd like to ask if anyone can enlighten all of us as to if there's a limit, a maximum of those home funds that can be expended in this project, because of course they may be reserved for some other projects that we think are also important in the neighborhoods, is my impression. And the last question I have, again, just to list them. On page 1, there's a box on assignment and transfer rights. It speaks of the ground lease, and the last 2 lines say, the ground lease may be transferred or assigned to a third-party designee upon written approval of the Director of Development Services for the city. Said approval shall not be unreasonably withheld or delayed. And my question, and I hope some council members or otherwise the director can enlighten us, what does unreasonably withheld or delayed, but most important, is it also subject to the approval of City Council in addition to Director of Development Services when the ground lease may be transferred or assigned to a different designee than RMS that we were initially contracted with? Does it and should it require approval of City Council for something of this magnitude?
Councilman Wunsch.
Yes, Councilman Deutsch, as was stated at the community forum, you know, in every development you have the general manager and then you have subcontractors who they subcontract. So we're not trying to limit him to who he needs to contract with, but he's let us know who his preferences were to contract, which were local contractors within inside the city of Hartford. And with every development is always a moving target. You want to do A, B, then sometimes you got to do C, but then sometimes C doesn't work, you got to go back to B. So I think that it's a great project, and we can't go over at this meeting every single number, but there's numbers that are inside the package, and he's willing and open to having a conversation. That's one of the other great things that I liked about the individual, that he's willing to have open conversation because he said, I have nothing to hide. So that is a great individual to work with, and I have every confidence that this project is going to be a great project for our city. But we're not limiting him to saying you have to use A, B, C developers, but the priority is to use local contractors.
Any other comments? Dr. George?
Well, again, through you and the council members and the public, given that there may be a shift and a transfer, again, I reiterate, should not City Council have to approve when there is a shift of that significance to a different developer or a different party? In the same way we shifted from Centerpoint now to RMS because there were certain issues with their completion. So I would like, just like...
You want to vote or you want me to answer?
Just like at the state...
I can answer him if you want.
Councilman Gale?
I would just to finish.
Council President,
Excuse me, I'm finishing the question. So just like at the level of the state and the federal government, do we have discussion among the full body as to whether we want to have that authority or not?
Councilman Gale?
Yes, thank you, Council President. To Councilwoman Wench's point, there have been many, many discussions about this item, a number of community forums, and lots of opportunity to ask questions. I'm a little aghast that Councilman chooses the night that we're going to vote on something to start asking informational questions as opposed to debate. That said, I understand your question, and I think it's very, very common in the development world for a developer to get control of a project, and then that project becomes its own entity, its own LLC, if you will. And just as a for instance, RMS, the developer here, when checking his background, it turns out that he's done some 20, 30, 40 projects around the state of Connecticut. Each one of them is called RMS Norwalk, RMS Stamford, RMS Shelton. And so what this language is referring to is that should he set up an LLC to be the designated owner of this particular parcel, that's something that the city would have to approve, and that approval would not be unreasonably withheld. We're not talking about a transfer to a whole different entity. So this is not RMS selling this to Center Plan. And therefore, it doesn't require coming back to council. It's RMS setting up their own wholly owned subsidiary of some sort.
Any other comments? Councilman? No? Okay. Just again, to echo the sentiments of my colleagues, I think this is a huge economic opportunity for the city, but particularly the north of downtown going into the north end, going into North Main Street and North Albany Avenue, and the whole vision around the Dono opportunity with the stadium being a catalyst was really that development that had been idle for years, decades, now being activated and being an anchor and kind of the connected tissue between downtown and our north end. So for me, I'm super excited and super supportive of this project, and I'm super excited that we have a responsible developer by all intents and purposes. Few of my colleagues have gone to New Haven and Stamford to visit other properties that he has developed, and we're really impressed. And again, this has been a very engaging process with the community. It started with a community forum back in the fall that informed kind of what this agreement should look like. And then now we have the output of that input. And then again, we went back to the community last week and had another community forum after, again, we took what we heard and we're coming back to you to share what we ended up with. And now we want you to, again, another opportunity to provide feedback. And I think all in all, people are very positive. They want to see this happen. But it is all dependent on the outcome of a trial that is currently taking place. And I think one of the important factors that was mentioned, and hopefully answers one of your questions, that this project is performance-based. So we are not just handing title over to all parcels all at once. We are doing one parcel at a time, and to ensure accountability, so the extent that this developer doesn't do what they are supposed to do, doesn't hit, numbers that they were supposed to hit, again, we have an opportunity review on if you get the next bite at the apple, if you will. So I think that's an important feature to understand on how this deal was structured, and something that I feel comfortable with, and something that I thought was very important to be in this. The next thing was, you mentioned the affordable housing component, which was important to all of us locally, because we understand that we are in dire straits of really increasing our housing stock in the affordability area from a modernization perspective. And so as we look at these developments, we need to be ensuring that we can incorporate the affordability aspect. And so we are using some of our home funds as our contribution to subsidize those affordable units, because without that, they wouldn't necessarily happen. It would be market-driven housing. And so from a state perspective, a local perspective, we have to continue to seek out those funds to bring in that affordability aspect, and that's our contribution locally. So again, I think all in all, the positive feedback that I think we've received from the community, a lot of community input that went into this, and kind of where we are, I think we have a good framework and structure, and so fingers crossed with respect to having a positive outcome of the trial, because again, a lot of this is dependent on the outcome of the trial that's currently going on. But in the event that moves in our favor, we need to be ready to go, and we have a developer that's ready to go. So with that, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez?
Yes.
Councilman Clark?
Yes.
Councilman Deutsch?
Yes.
Councilwoman Fox?
Yes.
Councilman Gale?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado? Councilman Sanchez?
Yes.
Councilwoman Thames?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lynch?
Yes.
Pass.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Through you, Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to enter into executive session.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez?
Yes.
Councilman Clark?
Yes.
Councilman Deutsch?
Yes.
Councilwoman Fox?
Yes.
Councilman Gale?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado? Councilman Sanchez?
Yes.
Councilwoman Thames?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lynch?
Yes.
Pass.
Thank you.
It was very nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Through you, Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to come out of executive session.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez?
Yes.
Councilman Clark?
Yes.
Yes.
Councilwoman Fox?
Yes.
Councilman Gale?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado? Councilman Sanchez?
Yes.
Councilwoman Thames?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lynch? We have a quorum.
Thank you. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
I'd like to make a motion, an item to, excuse me. I'd like to make a motion to put item number 32 on for action.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez?
No.
Councilman Clark?
Yes.
Councilman Deutsch?
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Councilwoman Fox?
Yes.
Councilman Gale?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado? Councilman Sanchez?
Yes.
Councilwoman Thames?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lynch?
No.
Pass. Oh, sorry. Pass.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us in the audience and everybody viewing in at home. This concludes adjourns our council meeting. Thank you. Have a good night.